Hi everyone, and welcome. My name is Shiva Ghahremani. I am going to present to you for the next 10 minutes a short presentation that I've prepared on women and sustainable development. I am the co-founder and CEO of Asigmo, which is a data science company based in Vienna, Austria. And let me actually start by sharing my presentation to you. Right, so today I'm going to talk about fairness and bias in AI. Maybe from a first glance, you might think where is the relevance of this to women and sustainable development? But this is a very important topic in my view, which is usually neglected, especially in developing countries even more. And however, it's a very, very important topic. And I would like to give you some few examples, and maybe towards the end of the presentation, you will agree with me why this is a very important topic. So once again, my name is Shiva Ghahremani, and I'm based in Vienna, Austria, being the CEO of Asigmo company. Well, I would like to begin with by asking all of you to take a few seconds and think about what fair means to you. Fair has been defined to mean impartial, honest, free from prejudice or self-interest. When it comes to data, we usually like to think of data as being objective. But the answers we get are often shaped by the questions that we ask. So when those questions are biased, the data is going to be biased too. So for instance, if we are talking about women's net income in developing countries and ask biased questions, obviously the data that we gather are also going to be biased. So what I'm trying to say is that data is not always objective, but depending on the source, how the data is collected in the first place, it can be actually very biased. We are living in an increasingly data-driven world. It influences our personal, business, and policy-making decisions. But what if the data that we have fails to provide an accurate picture of the lives of half of the population being women, if actually not more than half? So in many countries, we have come a long way since the first women's movements started drawing attention to the inequalities, especially for the development of women in societies. But let's take a look at the situation and see how it is now. So let me show you briefly what we are talking about when we say something is not fair, but in the context of a modern issue, namely artificial intelligence. Today I will be making most of my examples around Amazon, which is a company more or less known to everyone. So we all know that the automation has been key to Amazon's e-commerce, be it in their warehouses or pricing decisions, etc. Amazon started back then, a few years ago, using a hiring tool, which was based on artificial intelligence. And this hiring tool was giving job candidates scores ranging from 1 to 5. But by 2015, the company realized that the new system that they were using was not rating candidates for software developer jobs and other technical posts in a gender neutral way. Why did this happen? The reason was that Amazon's computer models were trained to vet applicants by observing patterns in resumes which were submitted to the company over a 10-year period. And because those resumes mostly came from men, which is a reflection of male dominance across tech industry, so the resumes were favoring men, and by that the computer models became biased. So in effect, Amazon's system taught itself that male candidates were preferable. In a way, it was penalizing resumes that included the word woman, even, for instance, resumes that had women's chess club, or something which was absolutely irrelevant to the software developer job. So in a way, the model downgraded graduates of, for instance, all-woman colleges, which was a scandal for Amazon. So let us continue with another example of the tech giant Amazon. Most of you might know that Amazon has expanded rapidly to become the world everything store. And they're very proud of the fact that they don't know what you look like when you come into Amazon store. They offer every customer the same price, the same experience. It doesn't matter where you live, which is true. However, when Amazon started rolling out its Prime services or Prime free same-day delivery, problems started to show up. So if you don't know what a Prime delivery is, Prime is a membership subscription where you pay a fixed annual amount and you get free delivery. In some countries, like in the US, this free delivery can be even this like same day delivery, same day as you purchase an item on Amazon. So when Amazon started giving this service, it proved to be very hard to offer it in all neighborhoods. For instance, in 6 major same-day delivery cities in the US, the service excluded predominantly Black neighborhoods to varying degrees, according to some analysis. So in some of these cities, which were still struggling to overcome generations of racial discrimination and economic inequality, Black citizens are about half as likely to live in neighborhoods with access to Amazon same-day delivery as white residents. So obviously there is no evidence that Amazon makes decisions on where to deliver based on customers' race. And they say that this was not part of the data that Amazon examines when drawing up its same delivery maps. They say demographics play no role in it, 0. However, they said that their plan to offer the same-day delivery was based on based on neighborhoods where there was high concentration of Prime members. And from there, they would expand, for instance, offers to fill the gaps over time in other neighborhoods. This is logical and this makes sense, but only from a cost and efficiency perspective. Most areas with the majority of existing members of Prime, it makes sense to start offering the same-day delivery there. However, in cities where most of those paying members are concentrated in predominantly white parts of the town, a pure and solely data-driven calculation that looks at numbers instead of people can reinforce inequality in access to retail services. Why we are making this example is that, again, back to what we discussed in the beginning, data on its own is not always objective. Let's make another example and maybe we can see better. Facial recognition bias. Back to our Amazon example, the latest cause for scandal and concern is a study which was published by MIT, which found that recognition, which is a face recognition tool developed by Amazon, performed worse when identifying an individual's gender if they were female or dark-skinned. In tests led by MIT, recognition made no mistakes when identifying the gender of lighter-skinned men, but it mistook women for men 19% of the time, and mistook darker-skinned women for men 31% of the time. But it gets even worse, because women are still being judged for their looks even by computers. A while ago, US and European researchers fed pictures of Congress members to Google's Cloud Image Recognition service, and the service applied 3 times as many annotations related to physical appearance to photos of women than it did to men. So for instance, the top labels which they applied to men were official and business person, but for women, they were smile and chin. The study adds to evidence that algorithms do not see the world with mathematical detachment, but instead tend to replicate or even amplify historical, cultural, and gender biases. You could get a completely false image of reality if your data is biased. It can still obscure women business people. For instance, by this example that we just showed, it can still obscure women business people and degrade them to their physical appearance. So like, to sum up what I was just explaining, data gaps and bias still exist, and they lead to detrimental outcomes for women. Bias is even in places where people think it's not possible. A few years ago, nobody was even thinking about bias in artificial intelligence. And I just made very simple examples of some cases that became public to see how even algorithms and computers can obscure women's growth in the society. So this bias might not even be deliberate or malicious, but it's important to always have a regard of what we might take as normal or standard, in fact, fails to recognize women. So algorithms nowadays are taking more and more, taking over the decision-making process. So that's why it matters more than ever today which assumptions, which data we build our models on. If the data that we build our model on is biased, the bias will be magnified. This could affect areas ranging from job applications, as we saw, to healthcare, to insurance, to credit ratings. If the information is gendered, then this bias in gendered information can be detrimental to women and can obscure their development in the society. So it's very important that we, as a society, keep a very close watch on credit, loan, investment, financial services industries, where algorithms are not very transparent. However, they still decide who is credit worthy, who is education worthy, who is insurance worthy, and ultimately who is opportunity worthy. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope that this triggered your attention to study this matter further. And if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to stay in contact. Feel free to scan my QR code to my LinkedIn. And I thank you very much again for this opportunity, also to the Green Management Conference, and wish everybody a nice rest of the day.